This episode of LCL Report brought to you by StashYourSwag.com. This amazing ebook will give you over 100 ideas and secret hiding places all around your house. None are over $50. Most of them are free. Remember, StashYourSwag.com. Go check it out.
IRS agent be robbing people, but as long as you do what you're told, it's a complete cop-out for humanity. It's, I don't want free will, just give me a treadmill to walk on.
And it's almost as if humans, we have not evolved socially past the crustacean, like the crabs, because the one tries to get out, and they pull on. But the phenomenon is, if you have one crab and you put the one crab in, he'll get out. If you put a few in, when the one goes to break, they pull him back in. It's like, are we really that? It's sort of it was Einstein who said that man, the military man, doesn't require more than a brainstem, and I think that's what maybe that's what he was alluding to, because just like the crabs that don't have a brain, it would just right. It's like the same mentality. We have not evolved this far yet,
and people take pride in it. And like my favorite phrase is, "I'm a law-abiding taxpayer." What does that mean? You do what the megalomaniacs tell you to do, and you give them your money. Why are you proud of that? It's like I'm an extortion victim who gets bossed around a lot.
And but at least I didn't go to jail like you.
Yeah. but that's one of the greatest tragedies of the 20th century was that this whole obedience thing was exactly what the Nuremberg trials were all about, right? Because there was this growth in what's called positive law, which is that law is just what people write down and you just obey it. But there's this thing, of course, which we all know called natural law, which is that it's what is ethical and moral and rational and universal and reciprocal and all that kind of stuff. And in the Second World War, of course, when they came across these concentration camps, and of course they heard about them in Soviet Russia, they said, man, something has gone horribly awry in our conception of law if to be a good citizen means that you're going to participate in these kinds of genocides against Jews and other groups. And so they had these Nuremberg trials, and they said, well, this formulation of law is really terrible, and we're going to go and just prosecute the people who are responsible for it. We're going to leave the rank and file alone because they were propagandized and infantilized in schools and so on, but we're going to go after the leaders. And there was this bit of hope where we were going to get some movement back towards natural law, and the deaths of 40 million people wouldn't have been entirely in vain. And then it all began to slither and slide as they began to pal up to the monstrous dictatorship of Russia, which was their friend at the end of the Second World War. And then it all just went back to this, now it's just the law is what's written, and if you obey it, you're good, and if you disobey it, then you're bad. And that is really, I think, there are 40 million people spinning in their graves saying, no, you were close, and then you lost it.
I don't want to get too much off the subject, but when you look at what happened, I think it was Operation Paperclip, they got the guys, the Nazis, who taught the leaders. So they brought all the psychologists and psychiatrists over that then became, MK Ultra and whatnot. So they were teaching this stuff to the American typers, and who just got better and better and better at it. It's just, we talk about the dissociation, and it's amazing how you have, I don't want to go into the religion part, but you have where some people, where they claim they're Americans and they have compassion, and yes, we care about people, and yet how many people would, mainstream would look at what happened to you? The man went to prison for not signing a piece of paper, and they would blame you.
Yep.
No.
I know, 12 is ridiculous. The 12 said guilty.
And even if you don't like what Larken was talking about and whatnot, the fact that when you watch the trial, and I wasn't there, but you were.
I was.
Personal first-hand knowledge.
Maybe you should have skipped it.
But you go, I read the book, Kicking the Dragon, which I recommend. In the things that were going on in there. And so you've got Americans who think we got the greatest system of justice in the world, right? Because you can confront your witness, and you've got all these legal standards, and came over from the Brits and British common law, and you're innocent until proven guilty and all this. And yet, they come out with things with you that fly in the face of that. And you can imagine what the internal conflict must have been with some of these. You'd hope that there would be. Maybe I'm expecting too much. You actually saw them, but you would think. And did you get an impression of watching the jury that some of them, at least at some point in time, were having a real problem with what was going on with you, what was being done?
No. No
Out
glimpse.
of 12 people, none
I
of
think
them?
the extent of the thought was authority. He didn't do what authority said, and back to the Nuremberg thing, you know, everyone was yay when they said it's not good enough to say I was just following orders. What does every cop say when you say, how can you drag someone off and put them in a cage for having a leak? I don't make the law, I'm just following orders.
Right.
What does every IRS agent say when you're swiping this guy's car? I didn't write the law, I'm just following orders. Everybody who acts as a tool of government does a huge disassociation and says, I'm not doing this. Bam, bam, bam. This isn't me. Bam, bam. I'm not doing this. It sure looks like you're doing this. No. Somebody else who you can't see, who isn't here, told me to do this, and I'm not a human being, so I don't have a choice.
Yeah. Now, Jim, I want to ask you this. This association, you would agree that a lot of it has to do with the fact that, especially in you know what the gunpoint schools, they're not taught right and wrong. They're taught legal and illegal.
Yeah.
You can.
Yes or no?
He answered it.
Actually, they're not even taught legal.
Mr. Molyneux.
But that's a point of dispute. What is right and wrong? I mean, there's no basis for it taught at school, as far as I know.
Well, they don't have an interest in teaching that, because if you have someone questioning whether something legal is right or wrong, or you can't possibly maintain any kind of obedience, because. So this is what I'm trying to get at. You edit that part when he.
Well, somebody wants to get married.
I do have a question.
Sure.
About regarding voluntary society, resource and capital management. What would the benefits be of resource and capital management in a voluntary society as opposed to the involuntary society we have now? What would individuals benefit from?
What do you think, Steph?
You know what they would benefit from, I think, the most is not having a society that's embarrassing. That's impossible to defend to any 3 questions that any reasonably intelligent person can. I mean, I have a daughter, and I can't imagine if I were a statist trying to explain the government to my daughter, because kids are naturally curious, they immediately pick up on inconsistencies, they immediately pick up on hypocrisies. Wouldn't it be great to have a society where you didn't have to twist your brain into some Gordian knot, lower intestine pretzel just to try and make sense of it all, but just say, well, yeah, the things that we teach you in kindergarten, like don't hit, don't steal, don't punch, don't push, this is how society runs. Hey, if we're going to inflict it on 5-year-olds, maybe we can expect it from 40-year-olds. That's just the thought that I had, that it would be a non-embarrassing society to live in, which you could explain very easily and feel very comfortable about, and not be really crushed and embarrassed by everything that you have to try and pretend makes sense.
Right. And you can.
Well, unfortunately, some people need to get married, so we're gonna.
That's unfortunate.
That's your wish well.
I'm kind of depends on who you're talking to. I wish all the best, but it's time for us. We have to end this roundtable edition of the No State Project here at Porcfest 2010. I want to thank Alex Knight for being on.
Thank you.
Of course, Jim Davies. Thanks for dropping that cue. Mr. Molyneux, Stefan Molyneux, and Larken Rose.
Thank you,
Remember
everybody.
the No State Project every Saturday, 3 to 5 p.m. Central Time on AmericanFreedomRadio.com and LRN.FM.